What is up, everybody? We are back for another episode of the iReach podcast, and we've got a very special guest, Mr. John Rice, out of New York.
This is what I want to say to young people. Math is the science of everything in life. Everything in life goes according to math and science. So if you have aptitude for it, it's a great place to get a technical degree in because there's no limit what you can do from there.
He is the co-founder of Legacy Engineers. They are a mechanical and electrical consulting engineering company. And so super excited to get into this conversation. Let's go. iReach. Super excited to have you on today, John. Thank you for joining us. How you doing?
Oh, my pleasure. I'm doing great. It's great to be on with you.
Yeah, so wanted to jump in here, as we have this platform for the iReach podcast, I think it's super important for us to get a chance to highlight the various journeys about how folks got to where they are. And I think one of the important things is for us to understand that there's no cookie cutter approach and there's no cookie cutter kind of way to get to kind of where we end up, which is a source of inspiration for a lot of different people that may be tuning in, for them to understand that, hey, you know what? Considering where I am, the context of my life and my journey thus far, it does not necessarily say what I can or what I cannot achieve, right? And so just being able to have you on to talk through your journey, kind of how you got to where you are, but then also, being able to bring to the forefront, your engineering firm that you are a part of, that you've been a part of since the genesis with the Legacy Engineers. And so, talk to us a little bit kind of about your professional journey and how you got to where you are.
Wow. Well, when you say journey, and you're right, it is a journey looking back. Um, I think the inflection point that I like to start with is when I was starting college. I had, I guess my journey was first my youthful years. And, I got to high school and, was hanging out and was having fun with friends and was kind of getting distracted and not really focused as a student. Uh, but then I had this moment where I got knowledge of myself, started learning more about Black history and our purpose in the world. I got a serious worldview, and I realized that I was messing up a little bit in school. So I went to the service, did 2 quick years in the service, came back with my GI Bill, and was about to start college. So the inflection point I wanted to get to was a close friend of the family was said to me, "What are you going to major in college?" And I was saying that, I was always good in math as early as I could remember in life. And so I wanted to do some type of applied math. I didn't want to teach math. That was my frame of reference at the time. And he says to me, "Why don't you do engineering?" And what's engineering? So I'm starting college and never even heard of engineering at that point. But obviously went to the counselors and everything, inquired about engineering, sounded exactly like what I was describing in so many words. But I guess as a youth, didn't really have the view of who engineers were, what engineers did. So I think that's my inflection starting point. Started college. I grew up in Queens, Jamaica, Queens, New York. I started right at York College, part of the City University of New York system, and took all the prerequisites. The first algebra, trigonometry, calculus, differential equations, all the different maths. Loved that stuff. Just aced all that. And then all the other courses, the science, physics and chemistry, pretty much B student through all of those.
Yeah.
Those were new to me, but they're all applied math. So really that's what got me onto my track and it got me through at least the school part. And then, it took a little while to get into the engineering fields. When I came out of college, I was back in the 80s. And so then, um, in New York City, the employers were saying that, we'd love to, give you a chance, but we don't have someone to train you back at that time.
Mm.
That's what. So it took me a couple of bounces around before I finally landed my first job in consulting, a
Yeah.
company called Gibbs and Cox that designed Navy ships, and that got me into the HVAC industry,
Okay.
heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. Um, and I skipped a part here. When I started at York College, and York doesn't have an engineering program. So you had to take pre-engineering, which is all those prerequisite courses
Yep.
that I was speaking about. And so then you had to transfer to an engineering school. And I remember one of the deans from Columbia University was coming to speak at the school. And one of my professors must have told me, bring your resume, bring your transcript, and just show them. So it was a brother, a black man. The name is Roland Hentz. He was dean of engineering at Columbia University at the time. And he came and he spoke to the whole student body. And then, I went up to him afterwards and got a chance to speak to him, showed him my transcript and everything. So yeah, that was the first connection. I had to transfer to an engineering school. Columbia University was right in the city. Uh, my kids were born around that time.
Yeah.
That those 5 years that I went through school, those were the 5 years that my first through my last third child were born. So those were those years for me, and transferred to Columbia University, and then majored in. You had to pick when you first start engineering school in your junior year. You have to pick: is it electrical engineering? Is it mechanical engineering? Is it civil engineering? And I chose mechanical, I think, just because I could kind of relate to it better, just mechanical things. And, chemical engineering was a little bit kind of like, and electrical was a little bit like invisible science, but
Okay.
mechanical I thought I could relate to. And then I had to pick a course concentration. And back at that time, I picked energy conversion and power generation. And I think that's been the through line through my career to where I am today. Really focused on, at the time, the reason I picked it was because it just intrigued me. If, as Black people are the original people on the planet, and
Hmm.
you can imagine the first inhabitants of the planet and seeing the Earth in its natural form, how do you create energy? And so I think that question was the question that just intrigued me. So I chose that course concentration, and that's kind of been the through line throughout my career, really focused on energy. Energy and climate change has
Yeah.
become major topics now. So that's really got me on my path, and that's been my guiding light through to where I am today.
Oh no, that is great. I think there's a lot in there. Um, when you talk about kind of some of these pivotal moments that happened during your journey that kind of allowed you to go from one stage to the next. I think for one is being able to have those folks around you at an early age. When you were talking through kind of being good in math and science, and then talking with maybe your guidance counselor and saying, hey, you're proficient in these areas, have you considered engineering? It kind of took me
Mhm.
back, right? Because that's essentially like how I went off to college. And so when you have those folks in your life at an early age, and I would say during these very formative years, especially as you're transitioning from adolescence to young adulthood, um, talk to me a little bit about, because we deal a lot with this younger demographic as well, and they come
Yeah.
from various walks of life. They're in different stages, maybe in their career journeys, and or are budding young adults, and sort of kind of what we call this the first major intersection of life, where you can go all of these different directions, but you have society that expects for you to make an informed decision, right, about where you're going to go. And it's
Yes.
already a big transition just to go from adolescence to young adulthood to really start adulting, uh, and living this independent life. But talk to us a little bit about the importance of maybe community, or having folks in your life that can reflect you back to yourself, because sometimes you may not even notice maybe what your gifting or your areas of interest could potentially lead to.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head. Yeah, that was that inflection point between just hanging out, having a good time. That's kind of your sought out
Yeah.
childhood. You're out on the block playing with your friends. Sports, punch bowl. You're just having fun. You get into your teenage years, just partying and being girls but then it's all about community. That
Hmm.
um, the elders in the community, the wise ones in the community that kind of, set and check you on what you're thinking
Yeah.
and what your worldview is. Um, so yeah, so we were blessed at that time to come up post the 1960s and the whole era of Black consciousness in the United States. Um, have had such great role models.
Mm.
Um, Such brilliant leaders and teachers. So we just started reading. And that was the thing that, growing up in this country, you really don't learn your own history.
Yeah.
So at that point in life, that we had to start reading all those books that really educated us on who we were. Obviously, our autobiography of Malcolm X was a pivotal book. And there's a whole series of them that you learned about Black people's history and greatness, not just in this country, but going back, just in the world. The original people on the planet Earth, the mothers and fathers of all civilization, founded science, founded mathematics.
Mm.
Uh, our ancestors taught mathematics and science to the Greeks that were, the first that came into those ancient villages and the root of civilization. So just learning all that, gave me a good worldview and a purpose in life for study and for teaching, children and the next generations that come after us.
Yeah. When you get a chance to, okay, so man, I'm gonna circle back to that because that is
Okay.
very good. But I think I want to get into kind
Mhm.
of the genesis, if you will, of Legacy Engineers,
Okay.
the firm that you are a part of, and
Okay.
what your purpose and your mission is, and I'm assuming it's going to be connected to your personal mission and purpose as well.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
but talk to us a little bit about Legacy Engineers and how they got started and what you guys do.
Okay. 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 So let's start with what we do.
Yeah.
So I told you my journey. Ultimately got a chance to start practicing consulting engineering, the HVAC industry, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. That's a mechanical, majored in mechanical engineering. And so in New York, going out into the industry, the biggest industry, one of the biggest industries in New York is the construction industry. You see all the buildings around.
Yep.
Um, and so, yeah, so my field is architectural engineering, which just means mechanical engineering related to buildings. And specifically, it's the HVAC field. And so you just learn the basics of I told you that I had energy conversion was a focus. And so, all these systems, heating systems originally was converting fossil fuels into heat, burning fossil fuels and generating heat to heat buildings, and then air conditioning systems. Um, so I was a consulting, and that's what consulting engineers do.
Mm.
We design systems. We work with architects. Architects design buildings. You'll have a client. Your client may be a university, maybe a healthcare institution. We do performing arts centers. So anyone could have some need for a new building. They hire an architect. Most of the time, the architect puts the team of engineers together. So we do the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection. That's all the infrastructure that goes inside of buildings. If you just had architecture, you'd have these glorified caves with no lights, no running water,
No
no
functionality.
climate
Yeah.
no climate control systems. So that's what engineers do. And we do the design. We do the calculations using mathematics to size all your systems and design your systems. And then we do drawings. We create drawings and specifications, which is just a book that gives you all the materials. And so we produce those. Those goes out to bid. Contractors purchase the job based on our drawings. they build it. We'll go out and monitor their construction progress. So that's really what the field is, consulting engineering, designing systems for buildings. So I was working with a consulting engineering firm. And I got to start with a very small one on Long Island. It was only 5 people, and I learned all the basics and learned them well. And then, back in those days, in the 80s, there was no computer-generated drawings, no CAD.
Yeah.
So everything was by hand. You had to learn, we designed right on big Mylar sheets, in pencil, every word, every line you drew. So that was the start. Um, that firm was bought by another firm, was going to close our small office. And I started calling all the major engineering firms in the city. This is in 1992. I got picked up by one of them, a firm called AKF Engineers. And they had just started in 1989. And this is where timing is everything. I think the goal is, you have your goals and mission in life. You set where you want to go. You have bumps along the road, but you keep pushing in that direction, and then things happen. Timing happens, and that's been true throughout my career. So this time, I landed in this firm that had just started, and the firm, they were major partners in one of the large firms in New York, and they had just launched this new firm. I came in at the ground level in their third year. They were probably about 25-person firm there. And then, so over those next decade, we grew the firm to over 100 people.
Wow.
And then you learned how to become a partner in the firm. You have to have your credentials, you have to have your college degree, and then a professional engineering license, a PE license for engineers. And so I had to study for my PE license. My kids were there, took the time out, made sure I had those credentials, because I never wanted to be cast out by being unqualified for anything that happens in life. And then ultimately in 2001, I became a partner in the firm. So over those couple of decades, from when I started to now fast forward up into the 2010s to 2015, we grew the firm from 25 when I started to a 500-person firm,
Wow.
10 offices across the United States. 8 across the United States, 2 in Mexico. So an international firm. There were 26 partners in the firm. And we were in the planning stages to transfer the firm from our generation down to the next youngest generation. It was a great firm, great people. But I was the only Black partner in the firm. And
Wow.
we had a big 500-person diverse firm, but the partnership wasn't diverse.
Yep.
And then the names, we were always evaluating people to become new partners. And none of my young Black and brown partners would even be considered. So in 2015, I started working on a business plan to create a new firm. And it would do the same type of work. I became a specialist in sustainable design, doing designs that are less harmful to the environment, getting rid of fossil fuel burning and doing heat pump systems. And we'll get into more of that. But that was my specialty. I had grown to a point where I knew all the major players and all the architecture firms. I was very good at going out and making contacts with business leaders. And so I had gained well respected. So I started working on this business plan. And this was the thought that I would want to start a firm. I'd meet with some of my younger colleagues whose careers I thought deserved better recognition. I would pitch to them if they wanted a firm of their own where they could be principals in the firm. I would help them get it started. I would work 5 to 8 years. We'd get this firm started, and we'd pass this firm down to their generation, and they would do the same, pass it down to future generations, just to provide opportunities for Black and brown and women in engineering at the leadership position. And then owners. I have to have ownership also of these major firms. So I pitched it to them over the holidays in 2015. Between Christmas and New Year's, had dinner with them, actually 2 of them. The other one, it it was two gentlemen and a young lady who was an electrical engineer who I wanted to pitch this to.
Yeah.
I couldn't get her because I was calling her on her work phone over the holidays, and she had it off. She was only using a mobile phone, so I didn't reach her to speak to her about it. So I pitched it to the other two, and they were saying, "Oh, such a heavy lift to start a firm from scratch, and we're at a pretty good point in our career." So that was that. I was saying, okay, but I'm still thinking, I'm still working on the business plan. Come back to the office in January, and the woman, her name is Pearl, who I was considering to, start this firm with. She was putting in her notice to leave our firm, AKF Engineers.
Oh, wow.
And it was just because of the lack of opportunity. So I didn't reach her in time. She had moved on. So that year, fast forward, by chance, me and my lady were at one of the restaurants in Time Warner Center in New York, about to leave at coat check, about to go into jazz at Lincoln Center. And this is another one of these moments where things happen for, and up behind us comes this woman who I didn't know at the time, Cheryl McKissick Daniel and her husband, and they come up and we're just chatting at coat check. Oh, yeah, yeah, we're about to go into jazz at Lincoln Center. Oh, we're about to go into jazz at Lincoln Center. Oh, so when we start having these concerts in common, we'll start having dinners together in the future. So we started having those dinners. And I didn't know who she was at the time, but I learned quickly over these dinners her rich family history. Her grandfather started her construction firm in 1905. They passed it down 5 generations, kept it in the family. She's the owner now of the country's largest Black-owned, woman-owned construction firm in the country. And I learned this. And I even felt that 1905 is kind of close to slavery. Maybe it was like a home remodeling firm or something like that are, blowing up as a construction firm.
Yeah.
I went to a conference in Nashville, Tennessee, and they had booked me for this tour of the historical Black college campuses. And so I went on this tour while I was down there. And the first school we went to was Tennessee State University. And we're standing there in the center of campus. They have this statue of Maya Rudolph, this bronze statue with Olympic torch in one hand and college degree on the other hand. That's the big statue at Tennessee State University. So we're standing there, and the tour guide, one of the faculty member, comes out to greet us. And he says, these first buildings you see here were both designed and built by Moses McKissick. And I'm like, what? So it turns out her grandfather, Moses McKissick, was the real deal. He designed many of the first buildings on those historical Black college campuses down in the South, the first buildings on Tuskegee Air Base. And so I learned that on this tour. We went from Tennessee State University to Fisk, and I saw all these buildings that they did. So anyway, I met Cheryl McKissick, was telling her about my business plan to start this new firm. She said it aligned with her goals. She would give us office space and front office support. We could share the front office support, accounting and marketing. And all we would have to do is come over and sell engineering and do engineering. I went back to my colleagues. It was a year later now. They had gotten passed over again. Then they said, let's do it. And so that was the early planning stages. So Legacy Engineers, our mission is to to keep the same type of sustainable, high performance, mechanical and engineering design, but also to advance the careers of Blacks, Browns, and women into the engineering field and into leadership position. Our vision is that we'll change the face of engineering.
No, that is good. Yeah, no, thank you, John, for sharing that. I mean, that's an amazing story. And of course, yeah, Miss McKissick, with her family's legacy, especially, when you connect the dots back to what you said earlier about, us not knowing our history and our legacy.
That's right.
Rarely do we find anybody from our community that
That's
can
right.
even trace their lineage back
That's
right
right.
that
Yeah.
far and even beyond, and then
Yeah.
to have not only that type of family lineage, but that type of heritage where you see, what you were able to construct,
Yeah.
build,
Yeah,
like that's super empowering. And that's kind of what I wanted to circle back to
yeah.
is how empowering was it for you once you started to really discover kind of your history, where you came from? Like, how empowering was that for you to operate in this field, right? Knowing that hey, our ancestors, were these creators, of fields that typically we don't populate enough and or get a lot of the credit and
That's
opportunity
right.
for.
Yeah. Yeah, no, no, it's everything because it just gives you the knowledge and the confidence.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the main thing. And, it gives you confidence. It lets you know that you can be the best in anything that you do once you put your mind to it. Um, the one thing I didn't mention about legacy engineers that we have these four core values. The first one is diversity. The second one is excellence, because we believe, and we define excellence similar to how Kobe Bryant defined excellence for himself. Whatever your lane is in life, you be the best in that lane. Whatever you dedicate your time to, you be the best in that. So
Yep.
we felt that having a diverse firm and then everyone striving for excellence in that way, those two things breed innovation.
Mm.
And ultimately, we want to have an impact on, our industry and then also the communities we serve. So that those are our four core values, and that's our formula. Um, so no, it all starts with, just knowing, because knowing the history of other people and your ancestors and what they've been through, also informs you about your own abilities.
Yep.
So that's what gave me the confidence to, and just knowledge that I could be supreme and master any of these fields. And that was the one I chose. And so I rose to the top in that field. And then it was I did community service work, and then I did my profession.
Mm.
So we was mentors in a boys club program, and we worked in the community, educating kids. But my hook, everyone had a hook. So my hook obviously was math. I wanted to get them into math,
Yeah.
but my hook was chess. So I would teach them chess, and I would teach them math, and so that was our thing in the community. So the question you asked about how powerful is it that I thought it was one of the most powerful moves I could have done to come to the point in my career where I'd elevated to the top of my career and then could launch off
Yeah.
and start a new firm. Because then what I'm doing is I'm marrying those two parts of my life. Where I always wanted to mentor people, children. I got a little older now, so, I got a lot of the, younger folks like yourself out there doing the hands-on sports and all that stuff. But now I could run a major firm
Yeah.
and I could actually bring them in and do all the mentoring. We're teaching them, energy modeling, clean building design, how to design heat pump systems. And, we're using all these colleges and universities as our field for, finding the youth. And so, yeah, anyone who elevates themselves to the point where they're in one of the engineering schools, we can grab them and pull them up and get them into industry and into, leadership positions.
Yeah. No, that is very good. Just being able to have that intentionality, and especially when you get a chance to tie vocation with purpose, right? I think
Yes.
that makes the approach to work that much more meaningful. Um, and it feels different, right? When there's a personal connection to it and you feel like you are contributing to something that is beyond yourself, right?
Yes.
And I think that's very important, especially when we're looking to pass on that intentionality and that sense of purpose to our community as well, because things are different from when you grew up. I know you mentioned having the elders and them being able to have agency to speak into your life and correct you when you're wrong. But that's the beauty of community, and that's the beauty of being in the midst of kind of a multi-generational, if you will, community, where there's so many different values and wisdom and points of reference that you get, where you really do get a chance to live out that saying that it does take a village. In today's society, it is a little bit different, right? Where maybe sometimes people don't necessarily feel like they have that agency to speak into somebody else's life with as much freedom, as they did when you were coming up. So talk to me a little bit about that. Have you seen the difference, kind of generationally, and how a younger demographic is coming up, and maybe the lack of having somebody from a different generation being able to provide a more seasoned perspective and accountability.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a clear, valid point. I grew up in an era,
Yeah.
right past, the '60s and the '70s, a lot of turmoil, and also the onset of this whole Black consciousness movement, where we gained a lot of focus and knowledge, and then raising our children who came about maybe the '80s and the '90s in a different world, as you're saying, and not really directly seeing where we had been and the struggle that we had just fought to get to this, level of openness in a certain way. And so, yeah, I think the younger generation, they were given a lot, they inherited a lot, um, and may have taken for granted somewhat some of the struggle and some of the, um, what's the word that some of the insistence that we knew that we had to do something and not be denied. And um, so maybe this next generation growing up with so much, maybe taking a lot for granted. They're so advanced and they're so smart. We're hiring them straight out of universities, and they get up to speed quickly.
Yeah.
So not taking anything away from where they are, but uh, I think we had a certain incentive, and so I interact with these young people now, and obviously I'm old school, so they're still getting it the old school way,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
but then I'm learning from them also, and with all their advanced skills that they come in with. So I think it's just a great place for where we can meet each other in a workplace like this. And but the original point that you hit on was just marrying the workplace with your community purpose,
Yeah.
because you spend so much time at work.
You sure do.
It's like, these are like 10-hour days. And so, you do those, and then you were doing your community work on the side of it.
Yeah.
It was like, Saturday mornings we would do our mentoring program. And boy, at the end of that, you'd be tired because you worked the whole week.
Yep.
Then you put these 6 hours in on Saturday morning. And then, but now it's like everything that we do, every hour goes towards that. So it's a powerful move, and really feel blessed and that I've got myself to that position. And I didn't want youth to have to find those 30, 35 years to go through that path to try to find their way up to the top,
Yeah.
but to set these institutions up where it'll be an easier path for them to get into the highest levels of industry. And New York City is the largest market in the country. There's a lot of opportunity, and but the opportunity isn't always there for where our children can see it. So
Yep.
we wanted to address that.
No, that is good. So what type of projects has legacy
Okay.
engineers been able to be a part
Good
of?
question.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay. Right from the start, we launched Legacy Engineers July 1st. It was June 28th, was a Friday, my last day at my last firm. We had the parties and everything. I'm leaving after being there 27 years.
Yeah.
July 1st, Monday morning, I'm in the McKissick office, computer set up on the computer. I had wrote a personal letter to 150 of my clients,
Mm.
hand signature, all
Handwritten.
of them. Not handwritten. It was, but it was a personal letter,
Yeah.
and it was signed. And my former colleagues at AKF helped me stuff envelopes. I
Okay.
took the group out for dinner before I left, and so that it went out. So I'm there, just just reaching out to people. So, but it was also, so that was July 2019, And like I said, I had a big network, so I personally made an appeal to, um, my colleague. I actually have the letter
This is
here.
like you're celebrating anniversary time right about now, right?
It is. It is. That's right. It's matter of
Yeah,
fact, this is our 6-year anniversary as of today.
yeah.
Wow, that's really something. I didn't realize that this marks the day. Um, yeah, and my letter wrote to them was after 27 remarkable and memorable years at AKF as a mechanical engineer and a partner, where I've been fortunate to work on some of the most prestigious, complex, and sustainable projects in the industry, the time has come to start the next chapter in my life and career.
Mm,
After much consideration, consultation with family, friends, and colleagues, I have decided to pursue one of my central personal and professional life goals to dedicate my skills and expertise towards championing more Blacks to gain access and succeed in engineering.
mm.
So it just went on, and it's I wrote this personal letter to all my colleagues, and so then just started communicating with them as I came over, and then the next year, that's when George Floyd was killed,
Yeah,
and it was like the entire industry, the entire country,
yeah,
kind of realigned its mission around our mission, um, and the pandemic started in 2020, but it was a time where now everyone was looking for diverse teams to put on projects.
yeah,
And so when the pandemic started, uh, so that was right. I'm happy it happened right at the onset of our career at Legacy,
mhm,
because you wouldn't want to have like get up to like 50 people there and then have a major decline in work.
yeah,
But at the time, uh, like I said, I started July 1st. And I had to book enough work to bring my colleagues over. They're younger. I had built up a savings so I could go sometime,
yeah,
missing checks. But they needed their paycheck.
yeah.
So I had to book enough work to bring them over on payroll. So by the beginning of 2020, we had booked enough work. They were working moonlight to, do the projects as we booked them.
Yeah.
And so my first colleague, Stephen Fuller, came over. His first day was March 9th, 2020. The pandemic started that week.
Oh my gosh.
Our next colleague, Kyron Bowman, he came over April 1st. Those are the two we had made offers to. We paused it right there. So
Yeah.
it was the three of us. And so in the pandemic, as it started, so everyone's working remote. And now I'm reaching out to the people to see what work is going on. And we heard one of the major other engineering firms in the city, JB&B, they were converting some of the buildings, the Javits Centers and others, into those healthcare hospital
Mm,
places for COVID patients.
yeah.
So we said maybe we could get on this work. So we had a call, the three of us with the principals of that firm. Just and we told them about Legacy. They knew, but they got the letter. But so we had a conversation with them and networking. So they said, that work isn't really much. It's just putting an exhaust fan in a room, air cleaners. But what happened that following the end of that year, um, the biggest project in the city, which is JFK's new terminal, airport terminal, JFK Terminal 1, that project started. And they reached back out to us then. So so we got on the team. There was a big engineering team, 8 different firms, all collaborated on JFK's new airport terminal that's in construction now. So that was our first major project. And it was those, beginning things where you're making connections with people. All of this is about relationships
Yeah.
you have. So yeah, so that launched us that one. So that was great. That was one of my proudest moments because we had 2 young people in the firm then, and then I'm on the project. The principal at JB&B, um, his name is Scott Frank. He's on the board of the Urban Green Council. So we're both luminaries in sustainable engineering design in the city. And then and the part of the terminal that we were going to work on was the radiant floor heat. So the new airport terminal is heated. It's radiant floor heat because you can imagine these spaces are so large and people moving through.
Yeah.
So the slabs are actually the heating system, and then displacement ventilation means when you walk through these terminals, you'll see these kind of stanchions that have kind of like a mesh screen, and that's what delivers the air.
Mm.
It gets it right out in the breathing zone. So those were the 2 systems that we were going to design.
Mm.
So here's me and Scott Frank, luminaries in sustainable design. And he said, oh, I also have a special consultant I want to bring in. And he brings in another principal of one of the other engineering firms who had recently retired. His name is Dan Nall. And so it was the three of us, senior members with just great history in the city,
Yeah.
with my young engineers, teaching them, uh, radiant floor heating systems and
Yeah.
displacement ventilation systems. And so that's when I knew that I made the right move to start the firm,
Yeah.
and it was paying dividend that we were getting them on some of the best projects in the city. So since then, JFK Terminal 1, we're doing Lincoln Center's major renovation project. They're rotating their whole outdoor plaza area. We're working on Brooklyn Children's Museum,
Oh
which
wow.
is another
Yeah.
phenomenal project. It's a magical place, a museum for children, just dedicated to children. Most museums you go into, you can't touch anything.
Hmm.
Brooklyn Children's Museum, everything there is meant to be touched.
Oh
It's for
wow.
kids
So
to get
interactive.
around,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, interactive, animals and all types of, just a
Right.
great magical place. Most people in New York who have children know about this. And it was designed, well, it had a major addition back in 2008. One of the sustainable technologies that's prevalent nowadays is geothermal heat pump systems.
Mm.
Heat pump systems just transfer heat from one medium to the next. Most systems, most houses are cooled by air-cooled equipment. You have a condensing unit outside,
Yep.
or you have a through-the-wall unit where it's taking heat from the outside and cooling or heating the indoors. That's what a heat pump system is. A geothermal heat pump system uses wells and tubes that go in the ground, and it transfers heat from the earth to buildings.
Mm.
The reason it's more efficient than air source, because obviously the air gets very cold in the winter, down to 20 or 10 degrees,
Yep.
very hot, as you know, in the summer, where it gets up to 100 degrees. And so it's less efficient. The earth is always at 55-degree, a constant temperature year round. So
Wow.
it's the perfect source for heating and cooling systems. So I became an expert in this type of system. And the Brooklyn Children's Museum was changed to a geothermal heat pump system back in 2008.
Mm.
There they were drawing water up from wells in the ground, running it through their air conditioning equipment. And over time, that water, that was clean, pure water when it was first designed, but by drawing down so much water, I guess the salt from the streets in the wintertime and got the water quality really brackish,
Yeah.
and it started destroying all the equipment. So we were given this project to renovate the mechanical systems for Brooklyn Children's Museum. And so what we're doing is a hybrid system. One, we're separating that well water that has the brackish chemicals from the internal equipment with a heat exchanger. And two, we're combining it, we call it a hybrid system. It's part geothermal and part air source heat pumps. And so it's a complex project, but fascinating, the latest technologies, and that's one of the great projects we're working on now.
Oh man, now that is amazing. I mean, just being able to be a part of not only those type of projects, but to put in innovative systems, if you will, that has a huge kind of environmental additive to that, and thinking more along those lines. And so no, I appreciate this time, John. I mean, this conversation, I wanted to continue going. This time goes by so fast.
I
um
know, felt it.
before
I felt
before I let you go,
sure.
what would your advice be to anybody that's young, kind of right now, especially from our community, about the field of engineering, if they're not even considering it, maybe why they should,
Okay,
and just
good.
allowing
Say,
your
say
life.
no more.
Yeah,
Let's set it up right there.
yeah,
So much to be said about that. Engineering is using math to solve problems. And there's all different types of engineers. As we said, there's mechanical engineers, there's chemical engineers, there's electrical engineers, there's computer engineers, there's aviation engineers, there's all these different fields, and all of them is the same principles. How do you apply the foundations of science and math to solve these problems in society. Um, so the other thing I'll say is that, all right, so I said I started Yale College. I went to Columbia University. I got back in touch with the Columbia University engineering body last year, and we're hiring some there's interns in our office
Nice.
now working with us. But I also got in touch with my alumni. It turned out when I came to Columbia's campus in 1978, that was when the National Society of Black Engineers student chapter was their first year.
Wow.
And so
That's
I
beautiful.
got back in touch. Yeah, I got back in touch with my colleagues, and so this is just a long story to say that almost everyone that I went to school with in engineering, I am one of the few, really the only out of the black engineers there that is practicing engineering.
Wow.
A lot of them wanted just a technical degree. So engineers are the number ones that are accepted into law schools, the number ones that are accepted into medical schools, the number ones that are going into to get these business careers. So, engineering and this is what I want to say to young people, math is the science of everything in life.
Mm.
Everything in life goes according to math and science. So if you have aptitude for it, it's a great place to get a technical degree in because there's no limit what you can do from there. You're not pitching your hole in any certain career. If you can excel and just think about using math to solve problems, and if you can excel at that, and if you have enough of a math foundation in your life, um, it's a great start to a career.
Yes. Well, thank you, John, for just being able to share your story. Huge source of inspiration, the work that you are doing, but also the intentionality and the purpose in which you are empowering younger and up and coming engineers to do the same. And so I thank you for taking the
Yeah.
time, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for having me. Great speaking with you, and great the work you're doing and the outreach you're doing to communities. So, I commend you as well.
Thank
Great
you.
meet you. Okay, take care.